My father was Peter Maurice, and my mother was Mae Cecilio. My parents were Cape Verdean. My mother married a second time, and her second husband was Arujo. So we have a very large family consisting of Maurice Arujos. I was the oldest of 17. For what it's worth, I never hesitate to tell people I couldn't wait to get away. It was a little bit hectic for me because I was the oldest one. After school, there was always a baby to feed. There was always diapers to fold. There was always potatoes to peel for dinner. And it was 10 o'clock at night some nights before I got around to getting my homework done. I had to help at home. I had to help with the 17. And by the time I was in high school, I just began to wish that I could graduate and get out of there because I couldn't see any future in my mother having a child every year. It taxed all of us. I wasn't the only one who had to do things. My sisters, they had to help out too. There was always waste baskets to empty, floors to sweep, and helping to get whoever the baby was at the time fed and dressed for the day. My mom kept an immaculate house, but it's because we all pitched in and we had to do things before we went to school and as well as after school. Laundry was done every single day, and we fed the clothes through the wringer and cranked it while you're feeding it, and if you're lucky you didn't get caught. And then you put it in a big tub of rinse water, and you put it in a line, and we had to fold those clothes up after school. There was always a huge bag of potatoes to peel for that many people. We had 2 sittings for dinner because everybody couldn't fit on the first table. The house was small, but it was well kept. And there were only 2 bedrooms upstairs. One was for the boys and one was for the girls. And there were 2 or 3 that slept in a bed. There was no such thing as having your own bed. We got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the USO, which was on Main Street in Vineyard Haven. And that's one of the things that my father did in the morning was to clean the USO. And it was cold in the wintertime and hot in the summer. And the servicemen who were at the Navy base at the airport used to come down there and like at nighttime. So at 5 o'clock was the only time that we could clean. So he and my mother and I think another brother or sister, we'd go down and sweep the floors, dust the furniture, pile up the magazines, clean toilets, and the whole 9 yards, and get home maybe about 7 o'clock. And get some breakfast and take care of whoever was up and get them cleaned up for the day and then go off to school. So it was not your pleasant childhood. We had our own chickens, had a couple of cows. There was a garden. I guess it would have been impossible to raise a family without having the cows, the chickens, and the vegetables. That's basically probably why we didn't go hungry. I remember my shoes, the sole of my shoes flapping because they had worn and there was no money for new shoes, but stomach was always content. I guess it's a great world of forgiving and forgetting. Otherwise, I could be an institution because I didn't like my mother's second husband. I didn't like my childhood. I didn't like our surroundings. I didn't like it that my father left. I didn't like it that I had to do housework when I wanted to do homework. I never thought I was going to be able to graduate. When I was in the 10th grade, my mother pleaded with me to quit school, to go to work, to help to pay for the family because they didn't have enough money. And at first I was frightened when I said I didn't want to quit school. And I thought she was going to force me to. But she didn't. Every once in a while she'd say, why don't you quit school and go to work, get a job? And at one point I remember getting so angry. I said, I'm not going to quit school to go to work and support these kids who were not mine. I was really adamant and I was really angry that she even thought that I should go to get a job and help to support this family. And I just, I said, I'm not going to quit school. One of the most unpleasant times in my life. My father and my mother were divorced and he moved to the mainland. Nobody sat down and said, we're getting divorced, but we still love you. So I loved him. And where did he go? He left my life. He didn't say goodbye to me. He didn't say I'm going. He didn't say this is my address or I'll call you or I'll write to you. I had to look for him. I spent months and years looking for him. It was like he just got on the boat and dropped off the face of the earth. Nobody knew where he went. He had no ties with the island. Eventually I found him. He evidently had my name on his nearest kin, and I was called I got my brothers and sisters, and we got 2 cars, and we went up to see him. I was just glad to spend what few minutes I could with him. And I have a couple of sisters and brothers who wouldn't walk across the street to see him. You know, they were really hurt and confused. We came back. He died. He died in an institution. And my brothers and sisters and I went to borrow money to have him buried here on the island. And needless to say, whatever happened, I feel as if my brothers and sisters and I did justice by having him brought to the island with a dignified burial. That made me feel good.